G'day YouTube, Turbo Tristan here, and in today's video we're going to keep tearing down the $50 engine. Alright, so I went and ordered myself a crankshaft pulley tool or removal tool, whatever you want to call it. But this thing, it goes just on here, and then you put your breaker bar through that. Fail. So it goes just here, holds the crank pulley still. You put your breaker bar through this little notch here, and then hopefully that will come off. And I say hopefully because I've tried everything. I got the handle from the jack, put it on my breaker bar, reefed and reefed and reefed. I got my missus onto it as well. I lifted her up off the ground. I used my cheapy rattle gun. That didn't even budge it at all. I need to go down to Bunnings and get another breaker bar and some pipe and get 2 long pipes, 2 breaker bars, and see if I can get it off. I'm going to take off the cam gear. I'm going to remove the rocker assembly. I can get to the head bolts from here, but this has all got to come out anyway, so I'm going to take this out, clean it up, have a look, show you the difference. I'll probably get the other VTEC head I've got and just do a measure of all of the ports, double check the valve sizes, all that sort of thing, and show you guys what the differences are. You can see here I've already gone ahead and clearanced the block, which is where the turbo sits right here. So I've ground that away quite a bit. I'm going to end up painting this block once it's all ready to go. We'll pull the pan off. I've drained the oil out finally, and we'll pull the pistons out. I've began collecting parts. I have a timing belt here with a new tensioner, so that's brand new. I have this cylinder block guard or the sleeve guard, whatever you want to call that. I've got one of these things. It goes around the open deck on the cylinders and stops it from moving under high boost and high stress. This cost me 50 bucks from eBay. Definitely not the highest quality, but I'm trying to do this on a very limited budget. That should do the trick. Better than not having one in there. The aim for this car is to get it around about 400 horsepower at the wheels through this little Nugget 1.6, so that should be better than nothing. The rods and pistons will be enough. It just depends on the turbo and the rest of the systems, cooling, all that sort of stuff, whether or not we hit that number, but we'll go for as much as we can and full send. So I'm going to put this on the tripod and get to work pulling all of that apart. Alright, so it's much later. The engine is all pulled apart, all torn down. So there it is there. Looks pretty decent. It's going to get a hone. Give that a tidy. All pretty even wear marks. There's a little bit of a brown funny lip there. That's to be expected. I still can't get this crank pulley off, but that's a job for another day. Here's the block guard. That goes in there like so, and that'll just get pressed in when the time comes. Interesting thing, there's these little lip marks just here, so that's great. It means the block guard's not going to slip down, so I'm just going to slot that in there and hope for the best. Okay, so over here are all the bits and pieces. This is the D16Y head. This is the one that came off that motor. This is the original camshaft, and these are the rocker assembly, and this one is the VTEC rocker assembly. There's a little VTEC lobe there and the locking pins that slide through when it engages. I've ordered a pin set that locks all three of those together, so that's going to always be on VTEC. This is the VTEC cam. So that middle one there is the VTEC cam right here or there. Now with the cylinder head, they all look pretty similar. This fits in that, that fits in that, and they both are interchangeable. Some funny things to note is all the VTEC arms are smaller. They have a smaller head on there than this one, so they're much finer. Everything else looks the same. The non-VTEC head doesn't have this area here where the VTEC solenoid bolts on. It should be there normally. So on the underside, all of the valves and everything look pretty much the same. All the rest of the head pattern looks all the same, so that is definitely interchangeable. With the ports, so the intake ports on each one, this one's 41 millimeters, this one's 43 millimeters, so a little bit wider intake ports, even though the valves aren't any bigger at all, which is, you know, they've got these bigger ports, same size valves. Okay, so I've just checked the exhaust port size at the widest area of the oval, so the farthest apart section, and both of these heads have the same size exhaust port, which is 39 millimeters. So the big difference is the intake. The intake on the standard D16Y head is 40 millimeters, and it's 43 millimeters on the VTEC head. Otherwise, that's all the same. Now the cam gear, they're both identical size and everything, but the shape's different. I'm going to use this one. It looks cooler in my opinion. This is off the D16Y4. This is the VTEC one. They both have the markings here and up, there and there, plus up, so you know which way to put it. Keyway, everything's all the same. I've put all my nuts and bolts in bags so I know what everything is and where it goes. So this is the standard piston that came out of the car. Standard rings, standard rods. These are the bearings that came out of them. Obviously a couple of 100,000 kilometers on there, but you know, overall pretty decent condition. Bit of wear and tear, but doesn't matter because all of this is going in the bin anyway. I've also done a few other custom mods as well. So this is the spare rocker cover off the $50 engine. What I've done is I've cut a rectangular section out of the back here. I'm going to take this down to Trick Fab and get them to either put in a piece of tube or a piece of square, so like a inch by inch square piece of alloy tube. From the back we'll weld the fittings, new fittings onto the back there and block this off. And then on the inside the rocker cover will be much bigger and more open with more room, and then I'll just drill some holes in along here so it'll breathe out of this area and it'll be a proper baffled with some very fine, like 3 or 4 millimeter holes drilled all the way along there, and I'll get some new seals for that. Modification I've done, it's slightly more exciting is I've taken the factory intake plenum and I've ground off all of the nubs and all the fittings and all the bits and pieces off it. I've smashed out the little Welsh plug that was there, and you'll notice there are a few holes here. So what I'll do is I'll take this down to Trick Fab, get them to weld a big thick plate on the back here. I'll drill it out, and then I'll add the fittings for the brake booster, the map sensor, and also the fuel pressure regulator. On the front side, I'll just get this plated off just with some alloy plate and just weld it up so it'll look nicer. Same deal here, just cap that off. I did run into a couple of issues here whilst grinding off some of these. They have these big chunks on the back that don't really do anything, so I decided to make it look a bit nicer and grind off some alloy, and taking that off actually went through here on the runners. The casting was a little bit thin, but won't take much to just weld a small plate over that. And I noticed just here there's this really big chunk of alloy. Grinding that off, there's actually a very fine crack in there, so I'll get that welded, and that should be an awesome intake plenum just to tidy up the look of the bay and also to hide all of the fittings. I need to leave these on here for my throttle cable and my fuel pressure regulator. They mount off this, although I'll possibly find another spot to mount the fuel pressure regulator. We'll see. But that concludes the teardown video. I'm going to pack all this up and wrap it all in plastic now so it doesn't get any moisture in there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. If you haven't subscribed already, grab your grubby fingers, click like, click subscribe, and we'll see ya in the next video.